A task which is often required when working in a data analyst role is being able to combine data from multiple files like I have here. I've got 5 months worth of sales data in this folder, and each one of these files has an Excel table with the sales data contained within it. We can use Power Query to do the heavy lifting for us and combine all of these files within a couple of minutes. And what's more, it's much simpler than you might think. I'll show you 2 methods. The first, where the name of the tables is the same within each file, and the second, where the names of the tables are different within each one. As usual, if you want to follow along, you can download the example files from the link in the description below. Within your workbook, head up to the Data tab, Get Data, From File, then choose From Folder. Navigate to the folder which contains your files. Don't worry about it looking like there's nothing contained within it. We're only looking at the folder structure. Next, press Open. This screen, which opens now, shows you the files which are contained within the folder. If your data requires any transformations, then select the Transform Data tab, where it will be loaded into Power Query, and you can make any required changes before loading. For this example, I know the data is clean, so we can simply select Combine and Load to. Power Query will ask you to select which file you want to be the sample file. It will default to the first file in the folder, but if you want to change it, you can do so here. Next, we need to select the data input we want Power Query to read. Tables are shown with blue header rows, and sheets are shown as just white icons with a couple of tabs at the bottom. For each of my workbooks, my data is held in a table called Sales Data, so I'll select this one and click OK. The window which opens next allows you to choose how you want your data loaded into your workbook. It can be loaded as a straightforward table, a pivot chart, or just as a connection. For this example, I'll select Pivot Table Report and input on the existing worksheet. From here, you can now create your pivot table as you normally would. I'll put sales data in the rows, revenue in the values, and then format as currency. Here is where the real magic of Power Query comes in. Say we have now just received June sales figures and have saved it in the folder. All we need to do to pull the data in is right-click in the pivot table and press refresh. It's really as simple as that. This method works great if your table names are exactly the same in each workbook, but the query will break if they're not. Don't worry though, I'll now show you how to get around that. The first part is the same by getting the data from a folder. Go to the Data tab, Get Data, From File, then From Folder. But instead of choosing Combine, we need to choose Transform Data. This opens the Power Query Editor window. This source step shows us the details about the files, but the one we're mainly interested in is the binary column, which is the content of the file itself. The reason I can't combine the files using the other method is that when Power Query does its clever stuff, it hardcodes the name of the table from the sample file and performs a few transformations itself, but it therefore breaks on the next file as it can't find that table name. We need to perform some transformations ourselves in order to get around that. Firstly, I can't work with the binary file. I need to convert each of them into a table. I'll right-click this column and remove the other ones. Next, click the FX icon to add a custom step. I need to transform this column, so at the start, I'll type table.transform columns and open a set of parentheses. The next part of the argument is the table I want to create the transformation on, which is simply the remove other columns step we just created. Next, type a comma and open a set of curly braces and type content within quotation marks, as this is the column we want to transform. Type a comma again. We need to perform this step on each row, so we type the word each in here, then the action we want to perform, which is excel.workbook. Open a set of parentheses and type an underscore in, as we need to again perform this on every record within the workbook. Then close out the parentheses and curly braces and press enter. This now converts all the binary files into tables where we can see and get access to the content of each one. Click the double arrows in the top right corner to expand the tables. The only 2 columns we need is data and kind. Then uncheck the Use Original Column Name as Prefix, then press OK. We can now filter the Kind column by table only, and then remove it so we're just left with the Data column for our tables. Next, we can expand this column in the same way, which combines all the data into one table. Now all we need to do is come up to the Close and Load To icon. Again, I'll select Pivot Table Report and Existing Worksheet. I'll populate my pivot table in exactly the same way as before, putting sales data in the rows and revenue in the values. Just as we did before, if we have now received June's data, we can just refresh our pivot table by right-clicking it and pressing refresh. I hope these two methods inspire you to start using Power Query to combine your data going forwards. The second method, although slightly more challenging, opens up a world where you can perform more complex transformations ahead of combining your data from different files. Remember, I have a ton of free practice files you can download from my store, including the ones we've just worked through today. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to ensure you don't miss any further tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.